Alright everybody, we got a lot of catching up to do in this tank here. We've had lots of drama going on with my crayfish again. So, if you were following along, you will know that I had one crayfish that had one claw, and then a slightly smaller crayfish that had two. And the slightly smaller crayfish was the much more dominant one. I believe that is who we're seeing creep out of his little cave right there on the bottom, and now he sees me moving, so he's creeping back in. Well, I came down a few days later and I saw two crayfish with one claw, and one was considerably larger than the other one. So I got to scratching my head, and of course I looked around and I found a sloughed exoskeleton or a sloughed shell in the back of the tank. So I knew that the medium-sized one had actually sloughed, and when they slough they get considerably larger. When their new soft exoskeleton hardens again, it's considerably larger. It's really surprising when you see it for the first time. I always imagined it would be a slightly larger crayfish, but they come out soft, and that allows them to expand quite a bit as their shells solidify and harden up. So I suddenly had this much larger crayfish in there, but I am guessing that while it was a soft shell and extremely vulnerable, it must have lost one of its claws as well. So I now have two crayfish in there that only have one claw, and I'm honestly not sure which is which anymore. We've got the one we saw that just went down into the back tank right there, or the back cave, and then you've got one sitting up here on that rocky ledge. I guess we could probably get a better view if we look straight down on it. He is just sort of sitting on that rock underneath some plants. Again, not a lot of drama going on at the moment. I actually put some food in there. I've been sitting here patiently for quite a while waiting for something interesting to happen, but they are simply not cooperating tonight, so this is what you're going to have to put up with. I do still have the two smaller crayfish hiding in the nooks and crannies in there. There have been no eliminations yet. That is only a matter of time, however, because these crayfish will continue to grow, and even though I set it up very deliberately with varying sized caves, it's one thing to have caves in your tank, but if you've got a cave that even the largest animal can get into, it's not really shelter for the smaller animals. You have to have caves that only the smaller animals can get in, and therefore they can hide from the larger animals, and that will keep them alive for a little longer. Again, this is sort of a microcosm of the real world environment these animals would live in, and they do fight, and they are territorial, and as time goes on and they start sort of outgrowing their hiding places, we're going to have like too many crayfish in too tight of a tank, and there are going to be some elimination ceremonies in the future. So the plants are growing in nicely. If you look at my creeping Jenny, you can actually see new little shoots growing off of the main stems and have already turned upward. You can see new root growth on what has become now submerged. You can also see how chewed up the tips are and how munched on they look. The crayfish love them. The crayfish are definitely omnivores. They will eat pretty much anything. I've got a new shoot coming up on my arrowhead plant. By the way, if you've been following along, the arrowhead plant that I put in my 20-gallon open top, my 20-long open top, is doing really well. I've got tons of new root growth on that, and it looks fantastic. So that's working out really well over there, and I think it's going to also do really well planted in this tank as time goes on. In this pot over here, you can see once again the creeping Jenny is doing so well that I've actually got new growth that's turning upwards even though it is not in the water. I'm hoping I can actually get some flowers on it. That should be interesting if I can see it. It'll be really pretty to have some bright yellow flowers in there. My blue-gray stone crop there has turned upwards and is now beginning to grow towards the light. And the thing I'm most excited about, if you look very closely, you can see quite a few fiddleheads on my fern back there. So I have a lot of new sensitive fern coming up. I don't know how well it's going to do, and I don't know if the fronds will actually open up into the size of that one, but we'll see. If they do, I'll have to cut some of them back. I mean, that would be a bit much. And honestly, right now, I still have to keep that twig. It's not really a twig. It's actually a bamboo skewer. But I have it sort of propping up the stem, because if I take it out, well, I guess I've kept it in there long enough that I've sort of repositioned it. By the morning, however, that will be leaning over very much, and it'll be right under the light, and it'll be sort of casting a shadow down in the middle of the tank. So we will probably prop that back up again in the morning. And it's not that it's growing towards the light, that is part of it, but it's just when I pulled it up out of the ground, the stems got damaged, the stalks got damaged. I really did just go outside and rip handfuls of stuff up and bring it in here and slap this all together. The only thing I redid was this creeping Jenny on the left. The first batch I put in there simply did not take. It was all shriveling up and not doing well at all. So that did get put in there and replanted a little more carefully than the original batch. But this stuff over here, I just grabbed handfuls of stuff and stuck it in a pot and slapped some moss on top of it and sat it in the water. And I'm pretty satisfied with how it's doing. I did that because I know everything that's in that pot is really hardy stuff. It's really easy to do that kind of thing with these plants and not have them really suffer too much. And if they do, I'll just go outside and grab another handful and try again. It's no big deal. I got a yard full of tons of stuff that I can put in fish tanks. One of these days I will get around to doing a video out in the yard, and I'll show you various plants that I could bring inside and put either in my traditional fish tanks, or I could put in a tank like this very easily. I got tons of stuff I could put in a tank like this, and you probably do too. They're very common. You can put a lot of plants in water provided it is well oxygenated water. Lots of different ornamental grasses can do it. There's quite a few things that can be in sort of boggy, soggy water that's not anaerobic. As long as it's oxygenated water, it will do well. So that's pretty much all that we got going on. Again, I apologize that there's no actual crayfish in this crayfish tank video. I don't know why, but they have just been lying low all evening. Maybe a storm's coming. I don't know if there's any hoki fokum, that goes with crayfish hiding before a storm or something. But we have had some weather today, so I don't know. Maybe that's got something to do with it. But once again, if you subscribe, you won't miss any more updates that I've got going on. And as these crayfish grow and the drama continues, we will eventually, like I said, get some eliminations happening in here, and the drama will continue. So go ahead and subscribe. That way you won't miss any of it. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you real soon on the next one.